All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a close look at one of the absolute giants of the global apparel industry, Bangladesh. So, whether you're deep in the fashion world or you've just ever wondered where your clothes actually come from, stick around. This is for you.
First things first, let's talk about scale. You see this number? Nearly $38.5 billion. That's how much apparel Bangladesh ships out every year. It's a staggering figure that really shows you just how much this industry is the undisputed backbone of the entire country's economy.
And all of that volume, it puts Bangladesh squarely in the #2 spot for apparel exporting in the entire world, second only to China. And look, this isn't a new thing. For more than a decade, they've held on to that position, making them an absolutely essential, you could say non-negotiable, partner for the biggest brands and retailers on the planet.
So what's the big secret, right? Why do all these major brands keep flocking to Bangladesh? Well, in this first part, we're going to break down the key reasons that have turned it into such a global manufacturing powerhouse.
Now, it's really easy to just think, oh, it's all about the low price. But honestly, that's just a small piece of the puzzle. The real magic here is the whole package. You've got the massive scale to handle gigantic orders, an export system that's been perfected over decades, and, more, some serious skills in product development. It's that combo of value and rock-solid reliability that's just so hard to beat.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the what. What can you actually get made there? In this next section, we're going to take a tour of the country's manufacturing range. And trust me, it's probably wider than you think.
You know, for years, the story about Bangladesh was all about the basics. T-shirts, simple knits, you know the drill. And yeah, they're absolutely world-class at that stuff. But that story? It's totally outdated. The industry has pushed forward like crazy, moving into products that are way more complex and have a lot more value.
Of course, it all starts with their core strength, knitwear. I mean, Bangladesh is an absolute juggernaut when it comes to cotton T-shirts, polos, and hoodies. This is where their huge knitting capacity and their deep know-how in cutting and sewing come together to create efficiency that's pretty much unmatched for those big, high-volume orders.
But listen, their skills in woven garments are just as impressive. We're talking about one of the world's top producers of denim jeans and woven pants. From trendy fashion washes to super durable workwear and cute kidswear, the scale and the skill they have in these more structured clothes are just massive.
But the industry isn't just sitting back and relaxing. The real growth story right now is this climb, this move into products that need more technical skill, more complicated construction, and higher-end fabrics.
Yeah, we're talking about lightweight jackets, properly tailored blazers, and even intricate lingerie. Making these kinds of items, that requires a totally different level of skill and factory setup. It just goes to show that Bangladesh isn't just competing on volume anymore. It's increasingly competing on technical ability and quality.
Okay, so you're sold on what they can do. But how does it all work? How do you go from an idea to a finished product? Well, this next part is your practical playbook. We're going to break down the standard sourcing process from start to finish.
You know, the key to getting this right is having a really structured process. It always starts with finding and checking out the right factory for your specific product. Then you get into the nitty-gritty of sampling. Once you've approved every little thing, from the fabric to the fit, production kicks off, and it's watched over by super strict inspections before those final goods ever get on a ship. It's a system designed to catch any problems early and make sure you get exactly what you wanted.
Now, that process sounds pretty straightforward on paper, but it leads us to a huge challenge. How on earth do you manage all of those details when your team is literally on the other side of the planet?
This right here is the million-dollar question every single international sourcing manager has to figure out. Think about it. Miscommunications, delays on approvals, quality problems. All of that can get incredibly expensive and frustrating when you don't have someone on the ground.
And the answer for so many successful brands is a sourcing agent. The best way to think about them is as your local team, your boots on the ground. They're the partner who physically visits and audits factories, handles negotiations, and manages all the day-to-day stuff. They are the crucial bridge between what you need and what the factory is doing, and they just slash your risk.
To make this a little more real, let's look at what a professional sourcing partner actually does. We'll use a company called Trade and Investment Bangladesh, or TNIB, as an example to show you the kind of support these agents can offer.
The proof of a good partnership is always in the feedback, right? For example, the CEO of Canbiz Inc. in Canada talked about the strategic insight and hands-on support his company got. And honestly, those are the exact words you want to hear when you're looking for a local partner.
You'll find that the best sourcing partners are usually led by people with really deep roots in the industry. You want to look for leaders who have spent years in local trade organizations and chambers of commerce. That kind of background doesn't just give you connections, it gives you critical expertise in trade policy, logistics, and just knowing how things really get done.
So, what does a partner like this actually do for you, day to day? Well, they basically handle that whole sourcing cycle we just talked about. They find you the right factories, they manage all the back and forth on samples and approvals, they oversee production quality right there on the factory floor, and they make sure your stuff ships on time. In short, they become your trusted operations team in Bangladesh.
So for anyone out there who's thinking about sourcing from Bangladesh, the most critical first step is connecting with a reliable local partner. Doing your research on established sourcing agents and trade consultants is what will give you the support you need for a really successful partnership.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today. As the whole global business landscape keeps changing, having a supply chain that's not just affordable, but also scalable and resilient, well, it's more important than ever. So I'll just leave you with this question. Is your supply chain truly built to handle the demands of tomorrow? The answer might just be waiting for you in Bangladesh.